We got the Bitcoin Halving coming up in just over 2 weeks.
So, 17 days.
Yeah, excitement is building. I guess we've not had massive movements in price. With Bitcoin, it's kind of teetering around that 69, 70K mark. So I guess, what do you make of this, Pav? Where are we heading next?
Oh, it's great things. I think we've got the highest monthly close on record. We've put in new all-time highs. March was a big month for crypto. We've put in some pretty good structure, I think, in recent times. I was expecting for this month to be a continuation month, only because we have continued to close above previous monthly highs. So just essentially setting a data point that people are happy to pay premiums, like whatever they were spending last month. We've seen each month it just grow and grow and grow. I think that's been a lot to do with the ETF flows, obviously, which have been pretty present until recent times, where we did see a bit of a sort of more outflows and inflows. Most of the products we're still buying, as you can sort of see on this chart here. We've got the ETF flow tables up. Most of the other products in the black, even when we did have the sell-offs, but it's just been the grayscale product. It's just been one that's completely on the persistent outflow, and that's got a lot to do with just their fee structure and potentially investors looking to get out while they can to potentially repurchase maybe some of the other ETFs, which are a bit cheaper for long-term holding and short-term holding. So read into that what we will. But for me, I think for this month to sort of start strong and keep going strong, we want to see this sort of sell-off that we're seeing now get bought up. And I think we're starting to see that in the early hours of this morning, which today's Tuesday. So I think on the back end of this week, we'll know if this movement we're seeing is positive or negative. It's pretty on the fence wording. But I kind of like what I'm seeing in the sense that we're seeing previous key monthly, previous week levels hit early in the month, and we're already starting to bounce off of them, close higher, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm kind of seeing this month to be another green month until I'm proven otherwise. And we've had a lot of the macro side of things sorted out. Even this dip that we saw over the long weekend, it was pretty intense, but we still saw much, much less of a sell-off than we did in March. We had that big sell-off that we talked about, I think, before 2 weeks ago. So that was the big move when we went from 74 all the way to 60K. That was the biggie. So it's still a drop in the ocean compared to that. And we're structurally above a lot of these levels that I'd be concerned about if we weren't. So yeah, I'm more positive than negative at the moment. On another front, we've got some macro data that came out last night. I won't bore everyone with it, but it is essentially just showing in the US specifically that conditions are improving, businesses are doing better, they're expanding, showing growth. So I think the big one this month will be GDP data when it does land towards the middle of this month. We might see the markets rally off of strong growth figures in the US again. But yeah, other than that, it's a big month. Halving.
Wow, mate.
Everything's just looking better.
Take a breath.
I will take a breath now. But yeah, that's me. That's me done.
I mean, just on the halving quickly before we move on. So we mentioned it's happening in just over 2 weeks' time, approximately. What do we think? Because typically in previous halving years, we've seen a little bit of a sell-off, I guess, a sell the news events before we do have that higher run-up. Do you think we're headed for the same? Like, there's so much anticipation for the halving. When the day hits, are we going to have that slight dip before we start to run up again?
Who knows? Like, there's some rumors that Morgan Stanley they're going to launch an ETF in the coming days as well. So I mean, if there's more and more and more just of this institutional buying power, I can't see this cycle being the same as previous ones. Like, we just can't. And that's not to say that we couldn't dip, but we might just dip differently. Like, we might, for example, head to 80 or 100K before we see maybe some of these big players start to trim or start to slow down their buying pressure. And then we might see the market recede a couple of points. But I mean, right now, you just got to play it as you see it. And right now, it just looks like it wants to keep pushing higher.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, that's good
a halving like we've not known it, maybe. Like, we would have already expected a pullback in Q1, which we didn't see. Like, we talked about that at the start of this year. So, I mean, we can't really liken this to previous cycles, I feel, too much, which isn't a bad thing. That's my take.
Great take. Let's move on.